So may Baba in that message reaffirms the divine plan for creation. My will is law. My wish governs the law. And my love sustains the universe. And as the highest of the high, he supports his will, his wish, and his creation with his love. And what does he see as the goal? His wish to share it with you. To know it so well, to have worked in it so fully, to have understood its beauty so completely, that it can be yours. In order for it to be yours, everything that is yours must be given up. But not before you have learned from it. So he says in this message, he comes to remind you, to awaken within you this eternal recognition. And for those who are ready, he offers his fullest support. To approach me for deliverance from your predicaments, to expect me to satisfy your worldly desires, would be asking me to do the impossible, to undo what I have already ordained. He said, I ask you the simplest of things, is to lay down your life for me. in laying down your one life for me, for him, you are laying down all the rest. There is no way of freeing the learning, the knowledge, the living experience of your millions of lives for use in any incarnation, unless or until you have thrown the one you're currently living to his feet. It is in that way that the others are released. And since it is true that in each incarnation you will be positioned, anchored, and ballast in time and place by an ego, you will have it to do all over again, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. There are reasons for that. It ensures that you make a contribution to any segment of his world before you leave it. He wants this world to go on. Your karma does that. The unwinding of your ego does that. But what you get good at, life after life, is hurling yourself at his feet. That's what spiritual progress is. It is learning to more quickly hurl the full force of your being to his feet. So, if it is done, time after time, lifetime after million of lifetimes, as one finishes his work and learning for God, lives get a lot more fun. They get more fun because they get miserable earlier. What I mean by that is the ego wears out faster, giving you an opportunity to earlier hurl yourself at his feet. Because when you've done that, you share his world. He picks you up, supports you. And you realize that you have always lived, picked up and supported by him, but you really didn't know it. And it's such fun to know it. And such fun not to have to believe the rest. There is that tune, let these words be inscribed in your heart. Nothing is real but God. Nothing matters but love for God. It's in you, around you, through you. You know, that's what I meant by a bubble, no longer floating on top, but knowing that it is suspended in the eternal sea of divine energy and love. And supporting it and working through its layers and being it is nothing but the divine currents of that sea. So it's in you, around you. It is you. How do you learn it? You learn it by having those currents run through you, swirl in and out of you. You feel some places where it's refreshingly chilly, others where it is just delightfully flowing, others where it's thunderously pulsating. And how do you know that? How do you feel that? How does that sensate awareness come to you? It comes to you through the membranes of your individuality. The membranes, the actual membranes that form the net supported by that sea of love and energy. Those nets are sanskaras. They're like, and what is supporting them and what comes through them? That's what the mind is. It is entirely supported and balanced by the currents of living divinity. You have fibers of your mind. Your ego is made of matter. That matter is a net. It's a quick, sensitive net, like the tissue of your mucous membranes, or your erogenous zones, or your heart. And as currents come through it, you say, aha, this is me. Oh, I like to live in this current. This is my current. I'm going to learn about this. Oh, what a terrible storm is coming through here. It's ripping me. I'm telling you that life in creation is very well duplicated by a fish aquarium. Fish at different levels. And each of you are a fish net. Your job is that's all you are, is really that net. That is your mind. That net grows a bob. The bob is your physical body. That's the drop that takes you up to the top. It's that bob. As your physical body becomes inundated by spiritual force, it stops bobbing up here. It's pulled down, crushed. It is changed by the forces in which it knows it lives. That is what spiritual learning is about. It's being crushed as you are brought to the bottom of the aquarium. And and with it comes an increasing recognition, which is actually physical as well as psychological, that those currents are in you, around you, tie you to other people, that is all God, and that is the only reality, and that your individuality is to teach you the separate dimensions of that reality so that you can gradually integrate them. When you've learned the separate dimensions, the integration comes with a modification of the nets. They become looser and more flowing. They become golden. You know what golden nets are called? Loose, flexible golden nets. They're called love. The love is simply the loss of individuality by joining a larger unit. And by being able to join that larger unit harmoniously, by being, actually there's tissue at base there. When the tissue is harmonious and flowing, it is recognized that this is love. When it is stuck and forced, it is recognized that this is hate and aggression. And opposition. But as soon as it is loosened again, that goes. So hate, force, aggression, hostility are necessary correlates of a stiff net. But the net should be stiff before it grows that way. There's this analogy that the purpose of growing sugarcane is to get the essence of the sugar, and you have to first grow it, and it has to be strong and hardy. You can't go around extracting its essence until it's strong and hardy, and so it is with the structures of the mind. Until they are strong or an ego. You can't yield a harvest from an ego until it's overripe. You can't yield a harvest from a field until it's ripe. So they grow in their own time. And Meher Baba assures us that there are laws. It is His will, His wish. And throughout the whole of it, it is His love. His love is the combined harmony of it all. He says, your apparent calamities and transient sufferings are the outcome of my love. What he also implies in this message is that if you cannot handle them, if you can't handle the pressure on the top of the ocean, bobbing around in the sunshine, my goodness, what is going to happen to you? when the pressure really gets great against your bubble as it descends to the depths of creation. So, the bubble can't descend until it's ready. But when is it ready? When are you ready to hurl yourself at God's feet? Meher Baba says, in time, no matter what, with experience and learning, you will come to the point when that is what you will do. Or maybe it is not a point when that is what you will do, but it is maybe a section. Any point within that section, you might do it. Said, if you're in that section, then awake now. Awake now, do it now. If you have any choice over it, do it now. So he urges those who are ready to do it. And how does he ask them to do it? Please, not on center stage. Please, not with an audience. Please, don't even tell anyone about it. Please, do it silently. Do it unostentatiously. Do it completely. Do it so that only I will know. So, as we started out, do it silently. Don't try to put it into words. Don't involve others. It is just between you and me. It is the most intimate and the most sacred of life's possibilities. So, do it with the full skill that you have learned as a lover in my creation. Do it silently, completely, and totally for me. How could others tell you how to love me? Or how could you tell others how you love me? That is so intimate. It cannot be spoken. To speak of it is almost a sacrilege. So please don't. Live it. One of the joys of living it is, do you know that it is impossible to hurl yourself at the feet of God without hurling yourself at the feet of each of His creatures? It is quite impossible. If you would hurl yourself at His feet, it would be because you recognized Him. And where would you recognize Him? Where would you see Him living? Where would you deal with Him every day? In His divine mirrors. In His people. So know this. To hurl yourself at the feet of God means you hurl yourself at the feet of any human being who, whether he knows it or not, is divine. And how will he learn he's divine? By having people treat him as God. What do we call people we treat as God? They are. Our lovers. And what do you do for your lovers? Anything. Anything. It doesn't matter what. It doesn't make any sense. It isn't moral. It isn't rational. It is just that there is not anything you could do that you would not do for a lover. I sometimes feel very sorry for people because they can't remember that. And the experience in their life has not confirmed that. And God draws on that knowledge. It must be there. Anyway, so one of the correlates of hurling yourself at God's feet is that you're going to get a bad back. Because you are to hurl yourself involuntarily at the feet of all of his beings. And you are to learn to do it so skillfully that only a certain of them will recognize you there. Only some will know when you have really hurled yourself at their feet. So they watch you. They watch you do it several times. Finally, they learn how it is done. It's time for lunch, Pascal. Maybe we could begin again with just a minute of silence, Pascal. I have been given this beautiful leather case that I want you all to notice because it is supposed to make me more proper. A friend of mine came up and said, you need to have something besides that sweet little stationery box. That you are forever carrying your notes around with, not to say it isn't sweet. So I was given this, and I promised never to use that sweet little stationery box in public again. I miss it. Meher Baba's message, the highest of the high, which we considered in the meeting this morning, has, it has everything embedded in it. It is just everything. But a few of the things which seem to me so important for people now, I would like to mention. One of them is that Meher Baba refers to the pits of ignorance into which mankind has been cast. And of course, there is a reason for casting mankind into those pits of ignorance, and a reason for extracting him. And this has something to do with the way in which creation works, and the worlds that are part of creation work. it is as if, in order for the whole of it to work, it has to be cast, the whole of creation, frozen like an ice cube, so that divine energy is frozen in various little packages, and that freezing is form. And moving from one package to another involves being thawed out and then refrozen. That the frozen state is, of course, individuality. The unfrozen state is when the structure that held one in the form no longer holds one and the form begins dissolving. The pit is an ice pit, and all of creation moves from a more liquid state to a harder state to consolidate, clarify, articulate, differentiate form. This world in which we are now participating has reached and is now passing its pit. As it descends into the pit of frozen form, the avatar's teachings are this way, that way, and the other way. And those are the phases, those ways define the cubes in which life will be frozen. And those are the pits, the ice pits of the world, necessary states for learning. But the avatar's message this time was to reach into the pits and unfreeze the forms, to pull them from the pits by liquefying them. The agent of liquefaction is love. So the avatar's message this time was unadulterated, shameless washers of love. And that is really all. There is no Old Testament set of precepts here. Do this, do that. There is no universal judgment here. This is evil, that is good. There is simply a wash of love. It is then that force that will unfreeze man. So there is in all of Meher Baba's major messages a compassion for man's ignorance, a realization of the necessity of that. and a wish to free him by love. There is a technical side to this. And the technical side is that with love comes a freeing of sanskaras. They have been frozen into shape. They have been embedded and held in a particular kind of form. They are only released by love. So people are admonished to carry on all their activities with love. I mean, that is, people with a spiritual bent are admonished to do that. Often this has to be secret. Often people do not recognize when something is done for love. So that people, when they look at Meher Baba and ask the questions that you ask, well, if he is God and he loves us, why doesn't he take us out of this? If he is God and he loves us and he understands, why would he let us suffer this pain? It is, of course, because he really understands. And he wishes us to earn that understanding too. So I wanted to speak about the necessary pits of ignorance. I wanted also to speak of the simple notion which we mentioned earlier, that people, for the most part, are quite unready for God. So he comes incarnate. A few hundred know him to be God. A few thousand recognize him as a major spiritual leader. God cannot come too close, or he loses credulity. People like to worship God from afar, at some distance. The distance gives them an organization of their own thought. Well, God is above all this. God is at some distance. God would not pollute himself with this. But people are not yet very ready to either recognize or stand the presence of God. Only a few are. So they have very clear-cut ideas about what God is like. And those ideas are clear-cut and based on distance from him. Hundreds of thousands, millions worship him with a distance of many years. So that, in a certain sense, shows their own distance from God. Meher Baba responded to people. Did he respond according to their personality characteristics, or their social status, or their education? I should say not. He responded to them directly, according to what they could stand, according to what they could bear. So some he looked at and was close to, others he looked away from. Always. He responded to them by law. God comes as close to his lovers as he can get without killing them. There will come a time when people can stand his closeness. Now, how is he to have an effect on them if they cannot stand, if they cannot recognize him as God? He still has to have an effect, so they have to have a strong reaction. The strong reaction is negative. In duality, it is either positive or negative. And Meher Baba always cautioned people, for goodness sakes, stand up and speak. Whatever you believe in, speak it hard. If you believe me to be God, say I'm God. Act that way. If you don't believe me to be God, say I'm a charlatan. Act that way. Because it is all the same for his purposes. The more energy you give him, whether it be positive or negative, the greater help for him. So divine force in the world of duality must line up either positively or negatively. It is a great boon and a great privilege to happen to have an incarnation in which it can line up for you positively. You can rest your bottom dollar that is because there have been many when it only lined up for you negatively. And the laws of karma ensure that balance, first one way and then another. In this discussion then relates to opposition and opposition to divinity. And it's very important and very helpful for all concerned in the world of duality. It all is clatter, sound, organization, and noise. Above the noise, it is all the same. In the silence, it is only positive. Now, there is another issue that I'd like you to consider for a moment with me. The first begins with the fact that Meher Baba was especially fond of America. Why would Meher Baba be especially fond of America? Surrounded with these godless people. Meher Baba himself said that America was the most worldly of the civilizations. Therefore, in a certain sense, the most egoistic. He said, therefore, that mankind, the people in America, whether they know it or not, suffer more. because they are the crustiest, the most worldly of the civilizations. So he would do special work here. He would do special work in America. In a certain sense, the most godless civilization. Why? Why? Those of you who might have read what is now called the pink pamphlet would have become accustomed to a certain theme. And the theme is the golden age of the ego. And in that little pamphlet, there is a suggestion actually following Mayor Baba's message in this message and also in his universal message. That nations, political organizations, just like in other individuals, they grow, develop, they have their own karma, have their own egos. And that there is a golden age when worldliness reaches its highest, most refined, crustiest development. What happens then? Termination. It is therefore with the toughest, that one is apt to find really new breakthroughs. So Mayor Baba said that he adored America, that America was his. And like a farmer, he took a certain pride in the development of the ego. Of this worldly, this most worldly of all civilizations. And so now it was ready for a little harvest. And here, he would do one piece of special work. The sugar cane is ready to be cut. Mayor Baba also said to Marcia Deuce, those of you who saw the film would have seen this, America has been after my blood. You bet. You bet. Because it is ready for his blood, ready for the circulation of real divine energy. The ground is ready. Here also, there is an over-refinement of the Western mind. Here, people are standardly smart alecks. Here, every child is taught that he can be king and president. And here, we have a system of public education and a way of pushing people to the full development of their lower mind. That has to be. Before you can harvest in any life the higher resources of that mind, you must fully harvest the lower resources. So here we have all kinds of smart alecks, people who know everything, and people who have a most worldly orientation. It's perfect for God. Here we have a cultural golden age of the ego. So here, a tiny little step forward can be taken. And that tiny little step forward will be taken with the consciousness and the lives of those people who are impelled by forces beyond their control to throw their lives to the feet of the avatar. But here, they better make sure people don't see them. Here, we do not have the earlier forms of that institutionalized, where people actually do come up and bow and throw themselves at the feet of the master. We don't have. We've all had that. We've done it to death. Now it's time to really do it. Not by a show of external behavior, but by the reality of a firm and secret commitment in the deepest intimacy of one's being. That's one of the things Meher Baba meant by getting rid of ritual. The ritual is going through the external behavior that people do not understand because it is correct. So he wants them to go through the internal behavior because that's where involution is. And that's where that process takes place. So isn't it a funny paradox that Meher Baba chose America because it had such an impossibly overdeveloped ego?